Good day, everyone, and welcome again to my channel English One on One. If you have not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button so that you will be notified whenever another informative video like this one drops. Today we shall be examining another past paper argumentative essay question. This question comes to us from the May-June 2021 CSEC English A Paper 2. In this presentation, you will learn about the techniques that are applicable to any given question, and once these are employed, you will be able to write an effective essay. The question. Section D, suggested time 45 minutes. Your answer should be approximately 250 to 300 words in length. Write your answer on the ruled pages provided page 19 to 22. You are expected to write within the word limit. There may be more space than you need. There is a blank space below for any notes you may want to make. This will not be marked. You must write in standard English. In your answer, you will be assessed on A. The appropriateness of your content, B. Clarity, organization, and development of your arguments, C. Correctness of grammar, sentences, paragraphs, vocabulary, spelling, and punctuation. The question reads, question 5. Parents of children who vandalize schools and other public property must pay heavy fines to the government for their children's action. Write an essay giving your views on this statement. Marks, 25 marks. Let us look at the recommended approach. Now, the first step in effectively responding to this question is to 1. Determine what the question requires. Parents of children who vandalize schools and other public property must pay heavy fines to the government for their children's action. Note well, as you read the questions, you will discover that all questions, irrespective of the question given, revolve around this central question. If so, how so? And if not, why not? So if parents should pay, why should they pay these heavy fines? And if they should not pay, why should they not pay these heavy fines? Step 2 is an essential step, and this step is the brainstorming step. And by that we mean students are to brainstorm the pros and the cons. By that we mean the pros supporting arguments and the cons opposing arguments. Now the brainstorming process is an essential one in that it alleviates writer's block, less than the writer's block that students may have or come upon when writing their essay. 2, it allows them to better organize or arrange their ideas. Now when we examine this question, we see here the arguments supporting arguments and the cons opposing arguments. Now one of the supporting arguments that students could put forward here is that parents are responsible for their child or children's behavior, in that train up a child in the way it should go, and so that he or she may not depart or deviate from that training. 2, parents should teach their children the right values and attitudes, especially respect for one's property. Someone else could put forward children are minors and therefore should not be held accountable for their actions. 4, children are not working and so they do not have the finances or the money to pay these fines. The cons now. One argument that can be put forward is that children are the ones who have committed the act of vandalism. So why punish the parents? Number 2, in order to learn valuable lessons about respect for one's property or the property of others, the child should pay out of his or her savings or lunch money. Thirdly, Children who destroy the school's property, depending on their age, should be given community service to enforce discipline. Are you in agreement with these points? What side would you have taken based on these arguments put forward? Based on the fact that we can find arguments supporting and opposing this notion that parents should pay heavy fines to the government for the acts of vandalism committed by their children, then we need now to take a stance. And by that we mean take a position. Are we going to be in support of this motion or are we going to be against? And then we need to now decide on how we are going to write our introduction. Having taken the stance or position, then we need to look at our introductory paragraph. Now, the introductory paragraph or the introduction should have the following. 1. An attention getter or hook. And by that we mean something that is going to grab the reader's attention and wheel the readers in. That is why it's a hook, right? And it can be a definition, it can be an allusion, it can be a factual statement, it can be an opinion, right? So there are many types of attention getter that we could have used in our introductory paragraph. And so it is very important that we decide from the get-go what our attention getter is going to be. Then, of course, your stance or position on the matter, right? So the examiner should not be questioning whether you're for it or against it, okay? So your stance or position on the matter must be clearly stated. And of course, your 2 to 4 main points that you will elaborate on in the body of your essay. Did you get that? I trust you did. Now, here is a sample introductory paragraph, and let's see if it had adhered to, of course, the features that should be embedded in your introduction. So let's read. A minor based on most, if not all, societies are those that are under the age of 18 years. Thus, from a legal perspective, a minor is not responsible for his or her actions. However, we must realize that the law is not a shackle. Consequently, we must not seek to justify or condone children's action by punishing their parents. Children who vandalize schools' property and public property should be held accountable for their actions. By doing so, we are not only enforcing discipline, but also respect for the property of others. Now, let's examine this introductory paragraph. So our first statement here is a factual statement, okay? Right? And a factual statement is one that can be proven to be true based on research, documentation, or scientific evidence. Then we have here a counter argument. And counter arguments are essential in your argumentative essay, right? And what is a counter argument? A counter argument is one where you consider the other side of the situation, but then you maintain your stance or position. So we hear, yes, from a legal perspective, a minor is not responsible for his or her action. And we seem like the writer is leaning towards being in support of parents paying heavy fines. However, so the however there is a contrasting conjunction, and so it prepares us now for a different opinion or statement. So however, we must realize that the law is not a shackle, and this is a quotation taken from a politician, and so we could use it aptly here, right? That means that the law can be flexible. Isn't that so? Right? Consequently, we must not seek to justify or condone children's actions by punishing their parents. Now, right there, that highlighted statement there is the stance or position on the matter. And then in the latter part of this paragraph, we have the 2 to 4 main points. Children who vandalize schools' property and public property should be held accountable for their actions. By doing so, we're not only enforcing discipline, So the enforcement of discipline is one main point that will be elaborated on in the body of this essay. But also respect for the property of others. And that's another point that will be elaborated on in the body of the essay. So do you think that this introductory paragraph nailed it? Let me know in the comment section below. Now let's proceed to step 4. So step 4 has to do with writing your first body paragraph. And remember that the number of body paragraph that you have within your argumentative essay is somewhat dependent on the number of main points that you will be elaborating on. So it's important that your body paragraphs are well structured. Remember also that your body paragraph should include supporting details in the form of research, studies, survey, statistical data, and of course counter arguments. So let us read the sample body paragraph here. Why should parents be punished for the act of vandalism committed by their child or children? Do we not realize that by allowing the parents to pay heavy fines to the government for vandalism committed by their child or children, that we are sending the wrong message to the child or children? Research conducted by renowned psychologists reveal that children can only learn by being immersed into engaging activities presented in the form of discipline or punishment. When we allow these children to pay for the crime that they have committed, then and only then will they learn the valuable lesson of discipline and respect for the property of others. If parents pay, then they will continue to pay because the child or children wouldn't have learned anything. Are you in agreement with these statements? Let me know in the comment section below. And do you think that this body paragraph nailed it? Stated earlier, we had mentioned that counter arguments are important. They are the essential ingredients in your argumentative essay and should be a feature of your argumentative essay, right? So we look now at step 5, inserting your first or second counter argument. Depending on whether you had started with a counter argument, right, it will be your first, your second counter argument. If you had not started with a counter argument, then of course this would be your first counter argument. But counter arguments should be within your argumentative essay. So indeed, children, or we could have said sure, yes, children are not working, and so they may or may not have the financial means to pay the heavy fines required, as stated in our brainstorming process. But this should not be used as an excuse for not sanctioning them. These children were the ones who had committed the act of vandalism, so we are reinforcing the stance taken or the position taken here, and so they should be held accountable. Some of these offenders get huge sums of or their lunch money. So here we're talking about what they can pay. And they may even have some savings. Let them pay these heavy fines. And by doing so, we will be teaching them a valuable lesson about responsibility, being a responsible adult, okay, and the consequences for actions taken that deviates from the accepted standards established by society, right? So we want to show them that there's a lesson to be learned, and in order for them to learn this lesson, they have to pay the consequences, okay, right? And now this is the insertion of the counter argument, the reinforcement of the stance or position taken, and the introduction of your second main point. Okay, teaching them valuable lessons. Our sixth step is to elaborate on our second and third point. Again, depending on how many main points you have, that will determine how lengthy your argumentative essay is. However, the suggested word limit is 250 to 300 words. If children are unable to pay these heavy fines, then they should do the time. This time does not imply a prison sentence, but it means community service. And we could have said it simply means community service. So these have shown that 90% of children, remember again we said studies, research and all are ingredients in the argumentative essays, right? So these have shown that 90% of children who have enrolled in community service have been transformed into model children based on the fact that they had been taught that there are consequences for their actions. They have not been repeat offenders. Community services will reinforce the established laws of society, and by the end of these services, children would have been taught respect for the property of others. So you see, the person didn't deviate from the stance that they have taken, right? Step, but by no means least, is writing your conclusion. Now, your conclusion is a synopsis, and by that we mean a summary of all your main points or key ideas expressed in other words. Word, it's a summary, synopsis, so it should not be lengthy. It should be very brief. So the conclusion is like the icing on the cake, right? So punishing parents for the actions of their children will not improve the child or children's behavior. In order to ensure that children learn from their mistakes, we must enforce appropriate penalties on them for the act of vandalism. And that's the conclusion in a nutshell. I trust that this video was beneficial to you, this presentation was beneficial, and it has assisted you as to how you can maneuver, how you can actually navigate in your upcoming examination and write an effective argumentative essay. All the best to you in your upcoming exams. God bless.